Hello, I'm Jake Boudreau, civic journalist at Tell Community Television. This week on The Record, Build Nova Scotia is seeking public input for the Cellular for Nova Scotia program. The Minister of Energy and MLA for Richmond returns from a trip to Europe. The Square Roots project is returning to Discouse. A lung screening program is coming to Cape Breton and eastern Nova Scotia. And the Cape Breton Trades Exhibition Centre is announced. First, the sale of the live lobster holding facility in Almadam has been confirmed, but not all employees will be returning to work. Clearwater Seafoods has reached an agreement with Idaho Fisheries to purchase the facility in Cape Breton. According to a joint press release issued on April 17th by Clearwater and Idaho, employees are being called back based on seniority. As part of the transition, Clearwater said it worked with all stakeholders, including the union and the new owners, with the goal of preserving as many sustainable jobs as possible. When contacted, neither company would confirm exactly how many were returning to work, but in early March, about 83 workers were temporarily laid off while the sale was being worked out. The Almadam facility can hold live lobster for up to 6 months at a time in an environment that mimics their natural habitat and has the capacity to hold 1.8 million pounds of live lobster. Clearwater spokesperson Christine Penny said the sale will help provide sustainable, stable employment for a local workforce. She said it preserves the legacy of the Cape Breton facility as a leader in innovation and quality under a strong, experienced local ownership. Clearwater said the sale represents a positive step forward for the community, providing continuity for many of the employees and their families. As a result of the sale, the local facility will continue to play a vital role in the regional economy, providing high-quality Canadian lobster to consumers and ensuring local job retention, the company noted. According to the joint press release, Idaho Fisheries is an experienced operator, which will expand their lobster business with this transaction. This transaction builds the strength of the existing Idaho operations, allowing them to structure their business for continued success in a highly competitive market, the companies noted. Joel German, general manager of Idaho Fisheries, said his company knows difficult times may lie ahead considering the tariff situation, but his company will work hard to manage through these challenges and keep the facility growing and going over time. Based in Barrington Passage, Idaho Fisheries is an independently owned and operated family business that has been operating since 1981. Joining me is the Build Nova Scotia Vice President of Strategic Infrastructure and Development. Welcome, Jonathan Veal.
Hi, Jake. It's really nice to meet you and speak with your audience.
As part of the Cellular for Nova Scotia program, Build Nova Scotia is seeking public feedback. First of all, perhaps you can talk about the Cellular for Nova Scotia program.
Thanks, Jake. It's really great to speak with you and speak to your viewers as well about this really incredible program. Just to kick it off, I think if anybody has more specific detailed questions, we have a lot of really great information at buildns.ca. And if you click on our cellular link there, we have great information and maps and all kinds of useful information for you. The cellular program kicked off in July 2024. It's a multi-year, multi-phase program, and it's intended to address unserved areas in Nova Scotia. For many years, we've heard from Nova Scotians that cellular connectivity in their communities and on primary roads is a major issue. And so the province took steps in July to kick off this multi-phase program. And so what that first phase of the program did was essentially roll out cellular infrastructure on existing communications towers that the province owned. And so that was really the first step. I just want to point out, though, that this is a multi-phase program, and what we're intending to do and what we are doing is we're developing proposals in parallel. And so it's not going to roll out sequentially. We expect different announcements to happen at different times with more information about new areas for coverage. But what we had heard is that this has been a significant issue. We are aware of at least 20,000 civic addresses and about 1,000 kilometers of primary roads across the province that are unserved. And so these are areas of focus for us where we want to address and create coverage. There will be subsequent phases to the cellular program. We're just in the process of evaluating some bids that closed in December, and this is for areas where new infrastructure is needed and where we need to actually build new towers. And so those other proposals are under evaluation, and we hope to share more on that soon.
So the Cellular for Nova Scotia program, how is it progressing at the moment? Are you guys meeting your timelines and attaining some of the goals that you guys set out to achieve?
Yeah, so that first announcement back in July of last year was for 27 upgraded towers and then the construction of 27 additional towers across the province. And so that work is progressing. We expect some sites across the province to go live this spring. And so in that case, we had partnered with Rogers, which was the successful vendor for that first phase. And so those sites are coming online. Our website has very specific information about timelines for each location if your audience is interested in that as well. So overall, progressing really well, and we're kind of looking forward to keep rolling out different components of the program.
My understanding is there are some sites in Richmond County which are a part of these. I believe there's one in, I believe it's West Bay or in that area serving Dundee area.
There's a number of communities served by the sites that we're working on with Richmond County. As part of that first phase, there were two areas I think that would be of interest to your audience. There's Frambois, which has an existing what we call a TMR2 site there that will be upgraded for cellular. So TMR2 is where there's got radio information, and so where there's radio communication provided. We anticipate that to be completed in the winter of 2026. And actually, sorry, I should point out, it's a TMR2 site that's a new build. And so your audience won't be familiar with the location necessarily, but it will have cellular communications as well as radio communications at that site. There's also Loch Lomond, which will have a cellular site, and that's also expected to be completed in the winter of 2026. And so we'll provide some coverage. It doesn't address all of the unserved areas that we know about in Richmond County and on Ilma Dam.
And TMR, that's trunked mobile radio. Is that?
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And that's typically used for emergency responders and emergency communications. You'll see often your volunteer firefighters or police will have those radios with them, and that's to expand the footprint of coverage across the province. And so a big part of what the province is doing is trying to improve those emergency communications and also address these unserved areas. And we work with the Department of Emergency Preparedness around that issue in particular.
So in this region, there are some areas with some decent levels of service. There are other areas with little to no service. And I assume that this is the case in many parts of Nova Scotia or some parts of Nova Scotia.
Yeah, when we dive into those 20,000 unserved civic addresses and 1,000 kilometers of roads, what we see is that they're spread out over large parts of the province. On Cape Breton certainly has a number of coverage area issues, which we need to address as well. Sometimes those coverage areas are kind of unusual in terms of the shape. Like you can't just draw a circle around a tower. Sometimes there's areas within that circle that don't have great coverage, and then there's areas that just don't have coverage at all because of the geographic conditions or environmental conditions, or even the building type and where you are. If you're in you have a metal roof, sometimes that impacts the signal at that particular point. And so we use mapping and modeling to understand that. And so the best way to describe it is if you sort of looked at Nova Scotia and you took a pepper grinder and you kind of peppered over the province, you would see areas that are underserved. And so we are working with federal regulators who are responsible for cellular communications. And then through our program, we partner with cellular providers to address these gaps.
I assume what you're referring to, topographical issues, I guess, and challenges. See, you have some areas that are really low on, close to the water. Then you have some areas where they're in mountainous, hilly regions, and then that, I'm sure, presents some challenges.
Yeah, that absolutely. And then, if you look at the west side of the island, you see a lot more of that topographic kind of change. The island itself is actually a lot more hilly than the mainland. And so that does impact coverage areas. And, if you're in a valley bottom, that changes things as well. So that's kind of how we look at it. We use a few tools. So we have essentially modeling and mapping that we've received from federal departments that give us a sense of what the coverage should look like. We partner with telecommunications providers and look at what their networks actually do and what the signal strength is and how that coverage should manifest. We also proactively do drive testing around the province. So what we'll do is our team will drive different parts of the province to collect actual data about what's going on. And then we also are surveying Nova Scotians to sort of hear what their experience is. So we get a lot of data points about what coverage should look like, where there's gaps, where there's particular problems. And then that helps inform us in terms of the program design about where we would best locate towers with partners to address these issues. But also what it does is, because this is a federal responsibility that the province has stepped in to address, and is providing the funding for the cellular program, we actually go back to the federal government through the CRTC, through innovation, science, and economic development, and we advocate for Nova Scotia and Nova Scotians to show them what we know and show them the types of challenges that we're experiencing here that are unique because of geography or how our communities have developed over time, and encourage solutions at the federal level.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that too about seeking public feedback and input, and I assume that helps to enhance your data gathering.
Absolutely, and then you can have objective data that uses all of the analysis that you can, but sometimes it's missed if you don't find out from Nova Scotians about what their experience is and what types of issues they have. And sometimes it's quite nuanced. Like we might find out that a particular tower site is not operational at the level that we would expect or anticipate. And so we can then flag that and identify that for regulators, because the telecommunications providers do have expectations at the federal level as well. And sometimes we've seen cases where we've been able to identify information, for example, around backup power at particular sites, or a site being down for an extended period of time. And we're able to sort of speak to the federal government and explain that this is happening. And sometimes it might be additional information that they don't have as well. And so these are all useful data points for us to help inform the program going forward.
What are the different ways that people can provide their feedback as part of this process? I know you mentioned there was a possibility of some public consultations later in the year, but in the meantime, what are people, what can they do?
Well, if you go to buildns.ca and you click on our cellular link there, we have an active survey right now that Nova Scotians and Cape Bretoners can participate in terms of answering some questions about about their coverage and where they might have underserved or unserved areas and what that looks like. We've actually received a lot of feedback already. The survey was released, I think, within the last few months, and we've received over 6,300 responses from Nova Scotians. We have 250 on Ile Madame. We have 752 from Richmond County, 2,000, almost 2,200 on the Cape Breton Island. And this kind of helps paint a picture for us of what the network looks like out there, where there's issues, what the types of concerns are. You can imagine a lot of people write us and explain about very challenging situations they have. So one way people can communicate with us is to do this survey. It helps us understand what's going on and understand the picture out there.
So what is the deadline for feedback as part of this process?
Right now, we're looking at the end of April for that. I mean, depending on if we continue receiving a high volume of feedback, we might extend that. Right now, we're looking at the end of April. So, I mean, if people don't have you got what, I think 9, 10 days or so for the end of the month to complete it. And we'll take a look at the results at the end of the month.
So I guess it's been established what the reasons are for gathering this public feedback, but what happens with this information once you guys get this? What do you do with it?
Well, we look at it in terms of all of the data sources we have. So I mentioned we do that drive testing. We have the modeling. We have the information from the telecommunications providers. This adds kind of to that picture of what is going on. And this, telecommunications and radio frequencies are something that's not necessarily, visible to everybody. And it's not easy to understand what it should look like in theory and what it looks like in practice. And so this helps us create that understanding of what's going on. What we intend to do with it, one of the most important uses is when we go back to the CRTC, the Canadian Radio and Telecommunications Commission, we make submissions to the CRTC and we advocate for improvements to coverage in Nova Scotia. The CRTC often comes out with new programs or new policies or new regulations. And so we want to make sure that Nova Scotia's view is heard and that that's communicated to the federal government.
So after this consultation phase, what are the next steps in the process?
What we're doing now is we're working behind the scenes with different telecommunications providers on phase two. Phase two is the expansion of new towers across the province, and that is intended to address a large amount of the remaining gaps out there. So that phase is we're evaluating bids that we've received. We're looking at it from a lot of perspectives, value for money. How do we maximize coverage for the province so that we can get the most of those unserved civics, the most of those unserved primary roads, address those kinds of gaps. That's the next phase. So we're just evaluating that information now, and then we hope to share more soon. After or around that time, what we're looking to do is we're going to then, I guess we'll call it a road show, but what we want to do is we want to go out to all the different parts of the province and speak with Nova Scotians about what we've learned, what we're doing, how we're working to address this issue, things that Nova Scotians can do to help out as well.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day for me and to speak with our viewers. Thank you very much.
No, it's great. It's great. And like I said, if anyone has any further follow-ups or questions, you can go to buildns.ca and we have all the information that you might need there.
With me is the Minister of Energy and the MLA for Richmond. Welcome back, Trevor Boudreau.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
So I understand you were in Denmark last week, so perhaps you can explain why you were there and what you were doing while you were on that trip, and whether you consider it a successful trip.
Yeah, so me and some of my team, and actually the Premier as well, was there for a good chunk of it. We attended what's called Wind Europe, and that was hosted in Copenhagen this year. It moves around Europe a little bit every year, but it tends to go to Copenhagen quite regularly, in part because Denmark is such a force when it comes to offshore wind. So they've really been leaders in wind energy, and so this was a great opportunity for me to kind of really see the scale and the potential for wind energy. And these are proponents and developers and investors from all over the world meeting together to discuss things with respect to offshore wind. And I would say my team kind of had me scheduled for a number of meetings. It was pretty heavy going. So we met with a number of different proponents. A number of them know how significant the wind energy is off the coast of Nova Scotia, our offshore wind, and so we're very interested in the potential for our region. But it was also a good opportunity for me to visit one port, which is on the west side of Denmark as well. Esbjerg is the name of the port, and that port is really like the offshore wind hub of the North Sea, and they really have everything you would want in a port facility to manage what would be not only for offshore wind, but for any offshore energy projects, including natural gas and oil as well. So it was a really good opportunity for me to see that and to visualize what's the art of the possible here for Nova Scotia, and to really discuss what the opportunities are here. As you may know, the Premier a couple of years ago has said that we will be putting a call for bids for 5 gigawatts of offshore wind energy by 2030. And so now that we've done the mirror regulations and legislation with the federal government, and we have our Nova Scotia, Canada-Nova Scotia Offshore Energy Regulator, we now can start the process of looking at that. And recently we've identified 5 areas that are of interest for offshore wind, and we have that out for public consultation there now in the province.
Yes, I recall that. And that's kind of leading into my next question. I guess basically, what are you working on right now as far as the files and things on your desk, and what are you going to be looking at sliding into in the near future as far as files and things to tackle?
Well, we focused on what's the art of the possible. With what's going on south of the border, it's become pretty obvious that maybe we can't rely on our neighbors so much as we have in the past. And so this is about energy security. This is about creating an economy here in Nova Scotia on the energy file. So whether we look at offshore wind, whether we look at onshore wind, whether we look at tidal energy, which we just announced we're opening up calls for bids for 2 berths there. We're looking at geothermal energy in Cumberland County. We've got some funds going out to the community college and some organizations there. You know, I would say the natural gas file is a big file in energy right now as well. So right now, all of the natural gas that we get in Nova Scotia comes from or through the United States of America. And so we have a tremendous resource under our feet, and also offshore. So, you know, we're revisiting that. We're looking at what we can do and what we can do responsibly and safely. You know, I think it's important for us to make sure that we're weighing the development as well as the environmental impact. So our government is very focused on doing it in a sustainable way. So lots on the go here. You know, on top of the Clean Power Plan and moving forward on our 80% renewable energy by 2030 for power in the province, as well as getting off coal. So there's never a dull moment here in the energy file.
I'm sure it will take some work and some time to move that forward, without a doubt. So
Yeah, and I mean those timelines are important to understand and know, and you know, but my team is working very hard on these files.
after the winter sitting of the Nova Scotia legislature concluded, Premier Tim Houston said his government removed borders on interprovincial trade. He said Trump's tariff threats reinforced the need for greater economic and energy security, something that you just alluded to. The Premier said lifting bans on hydraulic fracturing and uranium mining is central to improving Nova Scotia's economic and energy security. Do you anticipate more steps will be taken by your government, although the tariff threat has been paused momentarily? I imagine you anticipate that this is not something that's going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit. Our province and our premier has been a leader in terms of identifying, removing those those barriers for cross-provincial trade and mobility is crucial. And what we've learned from the on again, off again, on again, off again tariffs that seem to be coming through the United States is that instability creates challenges for businesses. So it's not, and for residents alike, it's not just about, I'm going to put a tariff on and then I hold it on. You don't know what's coming from next to next. And so while you have that instability, it's very important that we work with our neighbors, and our provinces are like, countries, really, right? Like we're large in size, like Nova Scotia is as large as Denmark, right? And so it's important for us to look at all opportunities. And I'm really excited. Late breaking news today is that Ontario has signed on to have a similar legislation as Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island announced a couple of days that they are as well. So we're seeing our neighboring provinces step up and support the initiative that Nova Scotia is taking on. And I think the federal government has praised our province for taking this role on and for pushing this agenda. But it's about energy security in my file. It's about natural resource development in Minister Rushton's file. But it's also, it's really about sharing of services and sharing of opportunities on all files. So I would say all of our departments are very highly aware of the importance of working with our neighbors. So that is a priority for this government.
This year's budget contains what the Premier calls historic tax cuts, that will save the average Nova Scotian family about $1,000 per year. It also includes the largest capital plan in the province's history, with $2.3 billion in funding that will help stimulate economy, the Premier stated. Do you believe these moves are sufficient to help Nova Scotians in what could be tough times coming and currently now? And is there more that could be done? And do you anticipate that there's going to be further steps taken, although these were quite significant steps?
Yeah, the Premier is right. These are very significant steps, and it's the first time we reduced the HST in this province's history rather than increasing it. And so that's significant. I also think about the increase in minimum wage for Nova Scotians as well as something that was put out. I think about the income tax brackets and increasing those to inflation over time as well. So all of these things are about keeping more money in Nova Scotians' pockets. I also think about the small businesses in Nova Scotia. So we've reduced the small business tax rate from 2.5% to 1.5%. And again, that's about allowing the Nova Scotia businesses to reinvest in themselves and to support their communities as well. But quite frankly, we don't know what's coming out of the U.S. And so what the Premier has said is we have a $200 million contingency fund that is there as part of this budget to utilize to support businesses, to support residents as we see these tariffs unfold. But he has also said if more is needed, then he's willing to do more. So this is a Premier that pays close attention to the needs of Nova Scotians, and that will do absolutely what we can and what is necessary to support them in their times of need.
Now, when I spoke recently with the NDP leader, Claudia Chender, after the winter session of the legislature, she alluded to what she called the government's secret agenda, with the NDP claiming the government is more focused on consolidating control and that is putting its own interests ahead of Nova Scotians. The NDP charged that the information about the doctor waitlist was removed from the Nova Scotia Health Online dashboard, and they're also charging that the government is charging ahead with plans to lift bans on fracking and uranium mining without meaningful consultation. When I spoke with interim Liberal leader Derek Mumbercat, he took issue with the government's out of budget spending. Is any of this criticism fair, or is these just the things that you guys need to do to move your agenda forward?
Look, opposition parties are there to kind of criticize and critique the government, and that's a role that they take very seriously. But this is a government that is a government of action. This is a government that looks at what the needs are of Nova Scotians and looks to meet those needs. Nova Scotians resoundingly supported our government after our last 3.5 years. There's a lot of trust and belief that our government is moving in the right direction. When we talk about hydraulic fracturing and natural resource development, look, these are different times. Our election was happening in November, and, by December, Donald Trump is threatening Canada with tariffs and talking about a 51st state. And so if you can't look within and say, what are opportunities that we have here in Nova Scotia, then, and just because you didn't have fulsome discussion prior to that in an election, it doesn't mean we can't look at this in a wholesome and a sustainable way. With any resource development or with any opportunities that come, there is constant, engagement with Nova Scotians about how we can move this forward in an appropriate way. This happens with hydrogen as it has over the last number of years with the hydrogen industry that's potential here. This has happened with offshore wind and the regional assessment. Those are things that we take very seriously, and I recognize, that sometimes when opposition parties are making a case for what they believe you're doing wrong, sometimes, we're a government that listens. We've shown time and time again that if we think we've done something wrong or we've made a mistake, we change our mind. This is a premier who listens to Nova Scotians. He is very much on the forefront of doing whatever he can to support Nova Scotia to grow. And I'm really proud to be part of a government that thinks that way.
Now, as is the case whenever we speak, I ask you if there's any upcoming announcements or anything like that of that nature, or events coming up. And I can see some progress is being made now. The construction season's getting into full swing. The new St. Anne Centre is going up rapidly, and there's some work going on at the ball field in Petit de Gras, both things that your government were funded and were directly involved in. So I'm just wondering if you're willing to tease anything that's coming up.
Well, look, I think you make valid points, right? It's now kind of construction season, and you're going to see some work on St. Anne Centre, and you're going to see some work on the ball field. You're going to see some work at Pondville Beach. You're going to see some work on the splash pad in St. Peter's. You're going to see, I think, some work on the playground in Arishat. If you drive through Louisdale, you'll see development going on across from the co-op there as well. And I believe in Lordways they've put their metal roof on that the province funded recently as well. I don't pretend to say that that's all that's coming, but I will say, as a government, we always look and meet the needs of our residents and of our communities. And so when community groups put good ideas in front of us, we seriously consider them and see what the art of the possible is. So, I'm in constant contact with organizations across Richmond County, and there's a lot of good ideas out there about how we can better our communities. So, looking forward to that in the coming months and years.
Yeah, we'll stay tuned to see what's coming out, and I'm sure you guys will reach out to us and let us know for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm here with Richmond Warden Lois Landry, and we're here at the Discoos Civic Improvement Hall. And upcoming this weekend, the Square Roots program is going to be offering some fresh produce for people. So maybe if you want to talk about that, Lois.
Sure. So a couple of weeks ago, we saw Square Roots asking for a community to host a free vegetable kind of drop off. And so the folks here at the hall in Discoos were really quick to say, yeah, we're in. We had them come. The first time is always free, and the produce was fantastic, and people couldn't say enough good things about the organization. So when we did a little digging, saw that Guysborough has a program that's really been very successful there. Port Hawkesbury has started one up last month. So we're looking to kind of piggyback on that and get involved in the same way. So we have our first market, Square Roots Market, will be held here at the hall in Discoos. The vegetables will be here for pickup on the 26th of April, which is the Saturday after Easter. But unlike the free drop-off, there is a cost associated with this, but much less than you'd pay at a grocery store. And we're asking for people to pre-order so you're going to get your produce. There will be some left over, but not probably as much as we saw in the free drop-off. So that order form, and there's ways to do that online, but there's also some phone numbers you can call. Those order forms are going to go live this Friday. So they'll be live from 8 a.m. on the 18th, which is Good Friday, and they'll be open until 5 p.m. on Monday the 21st, which is Easter Monday. So Good Friday to Easter Monday, 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And so we're looking forward to our first market.
So the people who don't fill out the order form, it'll be basically like a first come, first serve type of thing. Whoever gets there first and they'll be able to get their produce?
Right. So we pre-order so that folks who are really certain that they'd like their food, you'll know that your food will be here. We also have to tell them sort of how many pounds of everything to get. So the order form will be available online. There's just a Google form. It's very straightforward, and everything is being done through our Facebook page. But we'll also have posters around the community which will include some phone numbers. So if you're not on Facebook, if you don't have access to internet, there'll be a couple of phone numbers you can call through the same time. 8 a.m. Friday to 5 p.m. Monday. You can call and we'll put that order in for you. And for folks who are really struggling with transportation, we'll deliver it as well. So if need be. But what happens is if, let's say, we take all the orders and there are enough for 32 pounds of apples, well, they'll send us a 50-pound bag. And so the extra apples, the 18 pounds, those would be available for purchase here. After, even if you didn't pre-order. So can't guarantee what would be available depending on how they send us the food, but there will be some here, so we'd encourage everybody to drop by.
Now, based on the feedback that I saw and heard, the quality of the produce available seems to be a pretty good quality.
Excellent quality, yeah. And I think part of that comes from the fact that this is sort of seconds, and so there may be some cosmetic issues, but I think additionally, it's food that farmers are concerned that by the time it gets on the shelves in the grocery stores, it may not have much of a shelf life left, whereas we're sort of plucking it out of that queue and bringing it more quickly to these markets. So I think it isn't, but I've heard nothing but good things about and I was here on the day they had the free drop-off, and the food was, the produce was fantastic.
Now, as far as food security of that, this is, I know this was one of the things that when you were running and now that you've become warden and you were councillor, that's one of the things that you were concerned about in the county, even before that, I guess. And this does address food security, food insecurity.
It does. I think one of the things we as a community need to sort of do is to pull all the levers to look at any anti-poverty strategy. So, before my time, the municipality, as an example, started doing low income tax exemptions for property owners who found their property taxes challenging. There is money that the municipality puts aside for straight area transit. But this is a way that a local organization like the Hall in Discoos can contribute to that as well. And I do want to say something about food insecurity. We did have some people in Discoos who called Ronnie. Everybody knows if there's something going on in Discoos, it's because Ronnie's part of it.
Ronnie LeBlanc,
yeah, Volunteer of the Year last year.
Yes.
So when a couple of people called him and said, I would have gone, but I know there are people who are worse off than me who needed that food more than I did. I would like to just remind people that this is for every single person, because food insecurity might not impact everybody, but affordability absolutely does impact everybody. So you don't have to worry about, if I buy this food, does that mean somebody who's struggling more than me won't get? No, everybody is free to order and will order as much food as we need to. The other thing is that what we know about food insecurity programs is that universality makes them run better. So you see breakfast programs at the schools, for example, they're open to everybody, regardless of income. And part of that is because there are people who sometimes it's embarrassment, but sometimes everybody is likely to think, well, they're worse off than me. So the universality of these programs is what makes them most helpful to everybody across the board. So do not be shy, fill out your order form. It's affordability is an important thing for us all to keep in mind, and the produce is great.
Now, you mentioned Ronnie LeBlanc, who was here with the School Civic Improvement Society, and yourself, and I believe Daphne Campbell was another person. So, there's a team that's kind of behind this to really push this out there.
Yeah, there is a team, Daphne and Ronnie. If there's anything going on in the hall, it's probably because the two of them are involved. And I will say that I'm the only person who was willing to get in front of a camera. There was a hard no from either of them. But yeah, so Daphne was the first person to sort of see this on Facebook, where Square Roots reached out and said, does anybody have a community hall that we could partner with? And Ronnie is, of course, thinking about the logistics. We had a donation of a Toronto Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. I'm going to spare everybody the Toronto Maple Leafs jokes, but thank you to somebody who donated a Leafs jersey. I think Ronnie's going to sell 50-50 tickets on that to kind of offset some of the initial costs. So we're going to, for example, we have to buy bags in order to bag up this produce. We are asking that if you are going to order, bring a bag with you and either take your vegetables and put them, your produce, because there's some fruit, and put it in your own bag, or we'll just trade you. It doesn't matter. But that way we don't have to keep ordering bags and we can kind of keep all our costs low. But Ronnie's really the money guy. And so there's no profit being made on this. It is just a matter of making sure we don't go too far in the hole. I will say that any produce that doesn't get picked up will donate to the local food banks. So it'll all get used in the community.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, I spoke with one of the students involved in the Square Roots project, who's at the Sobey School of Business at St. Mary's University in Halifax. And maybe if you could talk about working with them, what that's been like. And seems like a good group to work with. And they seem very enthusiastic and very easy to work with.
Yeah. And I mean, who'd have thought it sounds like somebody's university project turned into this movement. And I know Tim Hallman and Tony Mancini in Halifax. Tim Hallman is an MLA in Dartmouth, and his constituency overlaps with Tony Mancini's district as a municipal councillor. And they have been doing this for a long time, and they got involved in this in the very beginning. And I've seen on their social media, every second Saturday they go out, they deliver. That's kind of their job. But we've seen that it was running so well. And actually Tim Hallman did a really nice piece about them in member statement this past legislative sitting. But it went so well that they're now really hoping to get into every county. So I do want to speak about that a bit. This is open to anybody anywhere. If you live in Richmond County, you're welcome. This is not just an Almadam thing. We are doing it 3 times this for now. So it's April 26th, May 17th, and June 14th. So we're only doing those 3 and we're doing it exactly the same as Port Hawkesbury. So there's no confusion. If you live in Loosedale or Evanston and you want to go to Port Hawkesbury, fill your boots. Nobody cares where you're from, where you do these things. So we're going to do it 3 times, and then exactly the way Port Hawkesbury is, so there's no confusion. And then we'll take a break for the summer because we do have some local farmers and farmers markets. We don't want to interfere with that. And then we'll start up again in the fall, and we'll use these 3 times that we do it to see if there's any better way or get some of the bugs out. But don't hesitate this is not nobody cares where you live when you fill out those order forms. And we do have some volunteers who have said that they're happy to deliver if transportation is a problem.
Now, in addition to the reaction of the people who went to Discourse the first time you guys had it, I believe it was February or March?
I think it was early in March.
Early in March. And there was, in addition to the fact that there was good produce and good quality produce, there was a fair number of people that actually came out and availed themselves of what was available.
There was, and it was people across the board and people who were curious about it as much as anything. But like I said, lots of people who said, well, I didn't want to go because I didn't want to, if there was somebody who needed it more than me. But this is not free. There is a nominal charge. And when I say nominal, the prices are going to range from $1 a pound for things like regular apples, carrots, that kind of thing, but up to about $2.50 a pound for some of your higher end vegetables like bok choy and that kind of thing. So the range is between $1 a pound and $2.50, which is much less than you would ever see in a grocery store. So you're talking about good produce that you get to choose how much. There are going to be a variety packs where they're just 10 pounds of staples, carrots, potatoes, onions, cucumber, tomato, that kind of thing. Or you can say, I want this many pounds of this much of this much of something else. So that's the pre-order form, and whatever's left is available. We'll be here.
A lung screening program will expand to Cape Breton and eastern mainland Nova Scotia. The program, which targets people at very high risk of developing lung cancer, is now available in Nova Scotia Health's Eastern Zone, which includes all of Cape Breton and Antigonish and Guysborough counties, the Department of Health and Wellness confirmed. Nova Scotians aged 50 to 74 who have smoked daily for 20 years or more at any point in their lives can contact the program, the department said, noting that primary care providers may also refer patients to the program. The department said people who meet the initial program criteria are offered a clinical assessment to determine their personal risk of lung cancer and whether they would benefit from a low-dose computerized tomography chest scan. They said everyone who calls the program receives information about lung health and, if applicable, supports available to stop smoking. People can contact the lung screening program by calling 1-833-305-5864, the department noted. Cancer screening saves lives, and expanding the lung screening program will improve outcomes for people by preventing or finding and treating lung cancer earlier, said Addictions and Mental Health Minister Brian Comer. I encourage Nova Scotians who are eligible for the program to make that call sooner than later. Your life could depend on it, he said. To date, more than 2,700 people have called or been referred to the program, which launched in the Central Health Zone, which includes Halifax Regional Municipality and West Hants, in January 2024. It will continue to be rolled out across the province over the next year. Dr. Daria Manos, medical director of the lung screening program, said more Nova Scotians die of lung cancer than all other cancers combined, and there is a lot of shame associated with it. She said many people believe that they bring it on themselves because they smoke, but smoking is an addiction, and we are here to help. This is why the lung screening program offers tobacco cessation supports to anyone interested in quitting. However, a person does not have to stop smoking to qualify for lung screening. Our job is to help Nova Scotians prevent lung cancer when we can find it earlier, when treatment works better, she said. According to the department, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in Nova Scotia. Each year, about 1,000 Nova Scotians are diagnosed and 700 die of the disease. To date, more than 1,500 people have had a telephone assessment in the screening program, including 403 people who asked to be referred to smoking cessation counseling, 385 people who were determined to be at a very high risk for lung cancer received free nicotine replacement therapy to help them stop smoking. 41 patients were found to possibly have lung cancer and were referred to a lung specialist for a diagnostic assessment. And the government will invest about $3 million annually in the lung screening program once fully implemented across the province, according to the department. Valerie Nugent, Director of Cancer Care with Nova Scotia Health's Eastern Zone, said screening programs put the power of prevention and early detection into the hands of our people. She said this is especially true for lung cancer, which is often diagnosed at late stage when treatment is less effective. The lung screening program is changing this by finding lung cancer before there are warning signs or symptoms and making it more treatable. She said by expanding the lung screening program to Eastern Zone communities, where incidence of lung cancer is high, we're making early detection more accessible for people who are at high risk for the disease. With me today is the Minister of Labour, Skills and Immigration. Welcome, Nolan Young.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
So the province is helping more Nova Scotians explore and connect to careers and skilled trades through a $10 million investment in the construction industry. So how will that funding be provided? Where will it go, and how much will be provided at one time? Is it a lump sum type of thing, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have a breakdown where we partnered with industry, and we're looking at a trades exhibition center in Cape Breton. And what that will be is it's going to provide apprentices a place to train, hands-on opportunities, place for the public, partner with communities, testing, training. We also have some money that we're putting towards enhanced direct entry. So enhanced direct entry is to get tradespeople to build the homes, the hospitals, the infrastructure, the stuff we need to get out there faster. And there'll also be some investments around English training. That's something that we heard from industry that they need. Involvement with veterans to transition into the trades. really a suite of initiatives that we're putting forward just to get the skills, the people that we need in the sector faster.
So what areas will be covered by this new center? You called it the Cape Breton Center. Is it just Cape Breton, Eastern Nova Scotia? Is it all of the province? How does that work?
Well, in Halifax, they had a trades exhibition hall, and it's hugely popular to engage, to make awareness for training and stuff. I think it's like a year wait list to get in. And just building on the success that we have in Halifax and looking at Cape Breton at all the growth that's happening there, it's replicating the success of there and bringing that up to Cape Breton.
So as you mentioned, the investment will support more skilled trades training through three key initiatives, including the creation of the Cape Breton Trades Exhibition Center, an industry-led hands-on exploration and learning facility for youth, community groups, and apprentices. So perhaps you can describe this center in more detail. Where will it be located precisely in Cape Breton? How many people will be trained there, type of thing?
So the first thing that we did is, as this is led by industry will get together, and what they'll do is put forward a steering committee. And really the first task of the steering committee will be to find a site that's applicable to get the construction going. Once that's up and constructed, we expect to have at least 200 people come through initially into the trades. So it really is, it's given it exposure of all the various trades and the skills out there, hands-on learning, learn what you like, and more importantly, what you don't like, and then find a career path. And one of the good things about this center as well is working with industry could lead to pathways directly into employers and stuff. Like industry knows the skills they need. They know exactly where the shortages are. And having them lead this initiative is great because they can be responsive and fill the needs that Nova Scotia has to continue our growth.
So another initiative includes expanding enhanced direct entry apprenticeship programs, which is faster, more accessible pathways into the skilled trades. Perhaps you can describe how this faster pathway works.
Yeah, there's a couple of options. Like most people, when they think of the trades here, they think of, going to NSCC and taking a pre-apprenticeship program. And I mean, that's great. That works for some. Other opportunities would be such as this enhanced direct entry. So that's really over, it's a shortened time frame. Over several weeks, you'd get your safety training, your basic skills, your orientation. It's really streamlining the skills that you need and then get out into the field to the hands-on sector to build the things that we need, the hospitals, the homes, the schools. Yeah.
The third initiative surrounds supporting career transitions, programs for underemployed people, veterans, and new Canadians to enhance and gain skills to be ready for careers in the skilled trades. I suppose there will be limitations on ages in this programming, considering the physical requirements of some of these jobs.
This will be open to everybody. I mean, this is open to community. It's open to really anybody that wants to, that has a keen interest in transitioning in, or really taking on a career in the trades. It will be open to everyone. And with the veterans too, I mean, there's transferable skills that they can be used, that can be recognized within the trades too. Really, it's industry driven, it's open to community, it's open to all, and we're super excited.
Yeah, and I suppose not all aspects of these trades are physically demanding jobs as well. I suppose not all of them would fall into that category.
Well, as a tradesperson myself and spent 16 years in the trades, I'm actually a Red Seal, and I mean, I've worked on job sites from very young people, 18 years old, to people that would be into their 70s and stuff. So there's opportunities for everybody here. Really excited as a tradesperson who spent most of his a lot of time out west, Fort McMurray, and coming back and looking at all the growth that's happening right here in Cape Breton Island. Great time to get into the trades, great career path, and a good job, good wages, and the growth we have here, good security too.
So in announcing this, you mentioned that Nova Scotia needs more skilled trades professionals, as you've been mentioning, to build the things that Nova Scotians want and need. Do you have numbers to quantify this need? Like, what is the shortfall there? Or do you have specific guidelines and guideposts that you guys are trying to hit, or some kind of quotas or something like that?
I mean, when you look at the average retirement age right now in the sectors, There's either people around my age that are in, or people that are nearing that retirement age. And when you look at the projections to between now and 2030, there's there's in the thousands of tradespeople that will need to continue the growth. So with this opportunity in Cape Breton, it's a great place to just get some of these skills, get exposure, get in there quicker, and it's streamlined to do to get the skills you need faster, get on the job site, and build the things that we need.
So also in the announcement, your department noted that an industry-led steering committee will manage the project details to encourage collaboration. The committee includes representatives from key industry organizations, unions, and employer groups. Has this group been formed, and who are the members specifically, and what are the qualifications to be part of this group?
Like the partners that we have right now are the Construction Association of Nova Scotia, as well as the Nova Scotia Construction Sector Council. Both of those partners, we get together, industry driven, they know the needs, and when they form that steering committee, they'll be working together to make this a successful initiative.
Duncan Williams, President and CEO of the Construction Association of Nova Scotia, said the announcement is a testament to collaboration across all sectors of the construction industry. What exactly are these sectors, and what does this collaboration entail? Is this sitting down at a table and talking things out and face-to-face contact and everybody getting on the same page? Is that what we're talking about?
I mean, the sectors to be made of the various trades and stuff. I mean, listen, we're all in this together. We're pulling together. We have great partners and stuff. And, just have a representation of all the various trades that are out there that we need. And having both of those entities, both those parties, great organizations oversee this. Yeah, like I say, it's industry led. Like, they know the needs, they know what's out there, and working together with them, great partners, really excited.
Now, Trent Soholt, Executive Director of the Nova Scotia Sector Council, Construction Sector Council, said this development is changing how construction and trades are viewed in Nova Scotia. I assume you agree with that assessment, and why do you agree?
Back when I was a young lad, I guess there was always the option where it seemed like everyone was going to university at the time. And really, I didn't know a heck of a lot of trades, some of the popular ones, but some of the other trades that are out there that are in demand, I had no idea. And I think a lot of people, may not know all the opportunities that are out there. So having this exhibition center that would have all the various hands-on experiences of different trades. I don't want to start naming them in case I leave something out. They're all important, but just really to get that exposure. Like I say, there's a great fulfilling path, career you can have that pays good money. Close to home too. Back when I was young, I had to go to Fort McMurray to find a job, and I came back after 16 years. And the opportunities are here in Cape Breton, and you don't have to go away. You could have a job in your community and stuff, and a long, rewarding career.
Now, the provincial government said the Cape Breton Trades Exhibition Center will be the second of its kind in the province, complementing the existing center in Halifax. And there are also 2 mobile training centers and 1 mobile construction facility as well. What areas do those mobile training centers cover? Are they all over the province? Or is there specific regions they're assigned to?
Yeah, so I might not be the best person to speak on behalf of that. Trent would probably be a better contact to give you the details. But I've had the opportunity to visit them and just see how they operate and stuff, and to take this mobile training where you can go into various communities and actually get the skills that you need. Like I say, we're all in. We have a suite of things for the skilled trades and growth within the province, and that's just another aspect of getting people in there, getting the skills they need faster.
Now, do you anticipate there'll be more of these mobile training facilities and permanent structures, facilities like the one in Cape Breton that was announced? Do you anticipate there's going to be more of these coming up, or is it basically this is what we got right now and let's concentrate on these and let's make these work?
Let's get this one up. Let's get it going. Let's get the people in the door and the skills they need. And I mean, we're always listening to industry. We're always adapting where we need to. We've made a commitment over the past 3 years to do some investments into the skilled trades, into construction to fill these gaps. So, what I'd say is we're always listening. Where there's great opportunities such as this one here, we're willing to act.
The press release from your department mentions that monthly and annual reporting requirements will ensure transparency and accountability. But what does that entail?
It's like I say, it's going to be it's an industry-led initiative, but it gives us some oversight on the activities that are going to happen there in a responsible way.
I guess, is it a way of like evaluating how things are going and kind of making sure that things are going as planned and conceived by the department and by the province?
Well, of course. I mean, with any expenditure and stuff that the province has, there's some oversight and accountability of the taxpayers and stuff to make sure it's good value for Nova Scotians, and that will provide some of the oversight. But I think what's important is just having these great partners together that know what we need. They have great connections with employers, employees, and really excited to be working with both of these parties.
Thank you for watching. Please tune in again to find out what we will be talking about on The Record.